Good morning. Welcome to the forecast discussion for December 8th, 2013. It's currently 8:46 a.m. Again, I apologize ahead of time for my voice. It's still congested. I love my cold. But we have a storm on the way that will bring a wide variety of winter weather to the Philadelphia and New York City metropolitan area with snow, sleet, freezing rain, and even some rain as our storm lifts north and east towards the Great Lakes with cold air damming over the region. Now, currently we have temperatures in the upper teens to lower 20s over the northern interior, mid to upper 20s just north and west of the major cities, and upper 20s to lower 30s along the coast. Keep an eye on those dew points. They're already in the upper teens. Now, this is important because as moisture moves into the region, we're going to have what's called evaporational cooling that's going to keep these temperatures pretty close or below freezing for some time this morning, and that precipitation is already moving into portions of Virginia and Maryland. So don't be surprised in portions of southern New Jersey and southeastern Pennsylvania to see some snow this morning as this storm develops. Now, on the latest radar, you can see that precipitation is already moving into portions of central and southern New Jersey and southeastern Pennsylvania, but it's not reaching the ground yet. What's happening right now is that snow is falling from the mid levels of the atmosphere, but drying up in the lower levels of the atmosphere because the atmosphere is too dry for now. But as the atmosphere moistens up, this precipitation will reach the ground in the form of snow for the entire Philadelphia and New York City metropolitan area, but will eventually give way to sleet and freezing rain, and then rain as we head into the overnight periods as warm air invades the coastal regions and eventually over the interior. Some interesting points to keep an eye on throughout the day. First of all, this is the SPC website, and what I'm going to do is kind of take you through the factors that I'm going to be watching throughout the day. This is the surface map, and this is what's called cold air damming. You see how this ridge is kind of building down towards Georgia? Think of this like a funnel. The cold air is up here, and that cold air is bleeding down this funnel. Now notice our freezing line here is pretty much right along the immediate coast, which is what you would expect this time of year, and then cutting through Delaware, then right around Maryland, down towards central Virginia, and just to the north of North Carolina. This right here, this pocket right here, is going to have some significant ice problems. Northwest Virginia, West Virginia, much of Maryland, central and western Maryland is going to get ugly in these locations with potentially over a quarter of an inch of ice, pure ice, on the roadways, on tree limbs. It's just going to get nasty in these areas. For portions of eastern Pennsylvania, that same threat exists, but the question is how much moisture actually gets into the Philadelphia and New York City metropolitan area. Right now, the way that the moisture is moving in, well, things are getting pretty interesting to say the least. Now, let me zoom in here for just a second. I'm going to take a slightly different look here with the moisture advection. This is really important. I'm going to take the radar off. Now you see this is the 850 millibar low, and then this is the moisture advection, okay? By the way, this is free. You can find this anywhere at spc.noaa.gov if you want to take a look for yourself. So what this is telling us is this is the moisture coming out of the Gulf of Mexico and flying up towards the mid-Atlantic. For right now, we don't have any heavy precipitation in place because this moisture advection has not reached the Philadelphia and New York City metropolitan area yet. But it will as we get into the afternoon and evening hours. But you can see these little arrows here, and then you see the moisture gradient right here. This is moisture transport at its finest, and it's going to drive right into the Philadelphia and New York City metropolitan area, producing periods of moderate to light precipitation. Now remember, with freezing rain and sleet, doesn't take much to cause problems, so you gotta be careful. So again, here's our 850 millibar low. This is why we're going to be changing over to sleet and freezing rain and eventually rain, because when we take a look at the 850 millibar temperatures here, what happens is that with this southerly wind, eventually temperatures are going to warm up above freezing. If this upper level low was like here around North Carolina and then lifting up towards the New Jersey coast, then you would be all snow. but that's not going to happen. This upper level low is going to lift up towards the Great Lakes and take all this warm air with it. You can also see that very nicely at 925 millibars. Now zooming in towards the northeast, you can see we have quite a bit of ways to go before we get to that point. Notice that 925 millibars, the airflow is from the north to south. So that means this cold air is being driven south. Meanwhile, at 850 millibars, you have warm air being driven from south to north. So you can see there's a difference in the wind patterns. As you go from basically, let's say 950 millibars on down to the surface, you have winds coming from the north. Above that point, you have winds coming in from the south, and this is transporting that moisture. And that difference of advection is what's creating precipitation throughout the region. So we're going to be watching that throughout the day. And finally, I want to make one last point here. We've seen already what our surface temperatures are, right? Now take a look at our wet bulb temperatures. This is what happens when temperatures cool to the point of supporting precipitation. You can see that line at 24 degrees. It's down towards New York City through Philadelphia, 26 degrees over coastal New Jersey, 28 degrees around Cape May, New Jersey, and Atlantic City, and the freezing line is all the way down past Delaware. So you see why it's a bit concerning that the moisture advection is already starting to get into these locations with temperatures already so cold when they were supposed to moderate into the mid-30s for highs already. So this could be a little bit more of a tricky forecast than what was originally expected. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that throughout the day. Of course, I'll have live coverage of this event through the day as a result. Here's the latest satellite picture. You can see that lifting, driving up towards the mid-Atlantic, a high pressure system in place. Notice we really don't have a strong low pressure system to deal with here. This is not a storm driven by a strong low pressure system, but just the fact that you have cold air in place and warm air trying to override that cold air. That's pretty much the whole process of this storm. And on the water vapor satellite picture, you can see that even more clearly with moisture advection coming in from the Pacific all the way through Mexico, being enhanced by the Gulf of Mexico and up towards the mid-Atlantic. And here's this storm that will basically tap into this moisture and lift north and east towards the Great Lakes, with a secondary wave developing along the New Jersey coast, keeping things rather interesting for eastern Pennsylvania moving forward. So here's basically what I'm expecting with this storm. Look for, along the coast, light snow developing, snow changing to sleet and freezing rain by tonight, changing over to rain by early Monday morning. 1 to 2 inches of snow is possible, mostly on grassy surfaces here. Again, we're going to have to keep an eye on exactly when this snow is actually going to start reaching the ground in these locations. Because let's face it, it's cold out there and the snow is going to stick very easily in these type of conditions. So we have 1 to 2 inches of snow expected. Most locations probably around 1 inch. You know, that 2 inches in case we get a burst at the start here. Changing over to ice with about 0.05 of an inch of ice possible. And then mostly rain thereafter. This storm is really not that big of a storm for the coast here. Further north and west in the pink areas right here, including portions of the Philadelphia itself, light snow lingering a little bit longer, then eventually changing over to rain by Monday morning. Again, looking for about 1 to 3 inches of snow. Most locations will be in that 1 to 2 inch range. 0.05 of an inch to 1/10 of an inch of ice is possible, and then follow that up with rain. In the purple areas, this is where we get more significant icing. We're including Hartford here, Allentown, Reading, Lancaster. Again, light snow mixing over to sleet and freezing rain. That sleet and freezing rain is going to last longer into Monday morning, eventually changing over to rain. Looking again for about 2 to 4 inches of snow. Most locations will be around that 2 inch level, and 0.15 of an inch to 0.25 of an inch of ice. Again, this could be significant. 1/4 of an inch of ice is nothing to sneeze at here. And this is if that cold air really locks in a little bit longer than what's expected. And then follow that up with rain. Now in the red areas, this is where the precipitation may never change over to rain, at least not until the very end of the storm. Looking again for about 2 to 4 inches of snow. Most likely most locations will be around that 2 inch range. Could push 4 inches if that snow lingers a little bit longer and 850 millibar temperatures remain below freezing longer than expected. This is where it's significant. A quarter of an inch or half an inch of ice. I think most locations will be around a quarter of an inch. I'm leaving that half an inch because I'm concerned about the moisture injection that we have in place here and what's happening right now this morning. I think most locations will be around a quarter of an inch of ice, and that's going to be still a significant ice problem for interior eastern Pennsylvania, including Harrisburg, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, and I think it's something that we're going to keep an eye on as this storm approaches. Using the GFS model, guys, all the models pretty much agree what's going to be happening over the next couple of days here. So we have our storm lifting through. Again, notice this isn't a major storm here. In fact, we have this secondary wave that's developing tonight. And this is interesting, the way that the high pressure ridge kind of builds down into North Carolina like this. Don't be surprised if your winds remain from the north a lot longer than what's being forecasted. And that could keep those low-level cold temperatures in place longer around Philadelphia. And that's kind of the concern for the icing that I have here moving forward. That storm finally lifts out on Monday. Now on Tuesday, we're going to have to watch out for a secondary wave here that's going to develop. Now all the models are starting to show this to one degree or another. And it's definitely going to be more than cold enough to support snow along the coast. Now how much snow? It's still a little bit too early to tell. It looks like a light snow event at this time. Really, we don't have any strong low pressure systems to deal with. But certainly we have a nice little dynamic disturbance that is going to be approaching the coast. Thus the potential for a little bit of light snow on Tuesday night that we'll be monitoring moving forward. Once that exits out, high pressure is pretty much in control through the rest of the week. And that high pressure system is going to be very cold, with temperatures basically from Monday afternoon on, because Monday afternoon we'll have temperatures in the 40s because of the warm air. Then after that we have temperatures ranging in the lower to mid 30s throughout the entire forecast period for highs. Low temperatures in the upper teens to lower 20s. It is going to be a very chilly week on the way. So that is your forecast discussion for today. Of course, I'll be following this storm throughout the day and providing the latest weather information and updates via live coverage on Twitter on nynjpaweather.com. And of course, premium members can follow along in the premium section where I'll be answering your local questions. Of course, I'm your meteorologist, Stephen DiMartino. Have a wonderful day, and please stay safe out there.